Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Corona Cave. Coronavirus now officially in Helsinki. So we only got so much time to get this analysis out. And Bitcoin having a massive tumble since we last spoke, hitting all of the downside targets that I spoke about that I was really looking for to probably hit over like the next week or two. Instead, Bitcoin just does it just like fucking that in the snap of a Nicholas Martin's fingers right there. So we got plenty to talk about today. What are the next sort of moves that I'd be looking for? And more importantly, before we get into that, I do want to wish you well. I want to wish you the best of the best because it is a nice little Thursday over here. Regardless of what viruses are present in this world, who knows how serious this shit is, but I don't really want to find out. So I'm willfully blind. I'm willfully ignorant right now. And with that said, let's get into the actual analysis right over here, beginning with the Krown trading app once again. And the Krown trading app showing that we've shaved a significant amount off the open interest. Looks like about 200 million over the last couple of days. So that is starting to be what we're looking for. Fear and greed index is getting down around the 39 marker right there. Bitcoin dominance more or less steady, kind of rising, and looking like total market cap steady as well. So before we actually get into it right there, just looking at that information, I do think that Bitcoin's probably poised for a little bit of at the very least a short-term bounce. And I do want to be very direct in saying this. I am long as well. Anyways, with all of that said, I think it's time to get into some actual charting action. And you know what? Let's talk about some narratives, baby. What's that Bitcoin hedge narrative you talk about? Bitcoin's the thing to be going into when traditional markets are going down, right? Right. Oh, fuck. It's exactly what we've been talking about for the last, for quite some time now. Correlation between Bitcoin and traditional market quite strong. In fact, correlation coefficient showing a 0.6 read. More importantly, the R squared showing a very high read. So for all the people who have expressed concerns, expressed doubt, and expressed controversy over myself saying that mathematically we do see that Bitcoin and traditional markets are related to each other in the macro, well, I would suggest taking a look at this and trying to come up with a new narrative because we're going to need one after all this shit. And by the way, I think even gold is down too. No, it's kind of still hanging around sideways. Anyways, more importantly, we'll leave that one for later. Anyways, more importantly, this is what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, is Bitcoin a safe haven asset right now? Fuck no. It is a risk on asset, and it seems to me that the world is very clearly and obviously saying that if shit actually does get real, you really don't have an actual safe haven asset. In fact, the only one that's acting moderately okay right now is gold. Anyways, with that said, I want to quickly show traditional markets as I do believe that they're going to be a pretty damn good way to kind of base off this next major area of a potential bottoming. And it looks like to me, I shouldn't say that first. What I should say is that yesterday after the market closed, President Trump got on the I don't know, the medias, I guess, and started talking about the markets, and market continued to tank, and it actually was trading, I believe, last I saw, somewhere around 307 region, which would be the daily 200 exponential moving average right here. So I do think that anywhere between the purple 200 exponential moving average and the white 200 simple right here is likely to be, at the very least, a nice bounce area. And I'd be looking for things to, at the very least, have a little bit of a relief in that region. Now, if things do continue, of course, there are further downside targets all the way down to about the 50 on the weekly right here, essentially in the same area, low 300s. And as long as Bitcoin's kind of remaining above there, I'm not necessarily like fully concerned about this route or is fully concerned about this. But the second that we do start to close weeklies below 303 and a half, or even just 300, if you want to make it a little bit more easier, that's a time where I do think that this retracement is going to really start to take on a much deeper meaning, probably back down to not that further down, maybe like 295, and then we'll kind of come back and reassess from there. Anyways, let's relate this to Bitcoin right now. As you do see that Bitcoin is essentially resting on its 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. I did long the 200 exponential moving average yesterday. I actually longed the 200 simple as well. That one ended up being a little bit in the loss category, but the 200 exponential moving average making up for it. And I do think that regardless of whether you're bearish or bullish for this move to continue on further down, I do think that Bitcoin's going to spend a little bit of time bouncing around here, at the very least on the short-term time frames. Bounce targets are more or less in the upper 8,000s region, about 89.50 to 90-ish, 50-ish region. And I do think that Bitcoin's likely to test around that region. It doesn't really do anything for price action. In fact, the only way that really flips around even the medium-term time frames would be Bitcoin getting back above that green 55 exponential moving average right here at about 91.50-ish region. region. If Bitcoin could do that, then this starts to look a little bit more nice as far as a longer term goes, and I'll be looking for Bitcoin to return back up to that 9550, 9600 breakdown region that we saw from a couple of days ago. So that's what I keep my eyes on for right now. Of course, could I be wrong in that? Yeah, of course. As always. But I do like the edge on this trade. I do like the setup on this trade, and more importantly, at the end of the day, managing risk on a trade like this is incredibly easy, as the low side of that wick that we just saw down to 8520-ish region on BitMexico, or sorry, this is actually Bitstamp right here. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. I am recording, and the microphone's working. That's great. Did it even 5 minutes into the video as well, so it's even better. But managing risk on a trade like this, very, 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 very simple. So that's essentially what I'm doing right now. And if Bitcoin did get back above about 9150, let's call it on a 12-hour total closing basis, then I would extend those targets back up to about 9550-ish region. But for right now, Bitcoin a little bit in limbo, and I do think that the lower term timeframes are pretty damn spent here. We're actually still not even seeing divergences being formed though on a 4-hour, and that is concerning. So is this bounce going to be like the savior bounce? I think probably not. Actually, unlikely. We really want to be seeing divergence on like major lows at the very least on like a 12-hour or preferably a daily. We haven't even seen it on a fucking 4-hour right now, which is concerning to say the least. So is it likely that we bounce back up here? Yes, I do think so. I do think Bitcoin's going to bounce back up somewhere around 9,000, we'll call it. But I wouldn't be surprised if that gets rejected relatively soon, or sorry, if that got rejected relatively soon after that, and then we give another try to where we kind of just bottomed out, or sorry, put in a nice wick to the downside yesterday night, it looks like. Anyways, I do want to say that on the 4-hour, a death cross is going to be coming relatively soon, probably in the next 2 days at the very most, assuming that Bitcoin can't rally back above, let's call it about 9250, 9300. So it is a little bit of trouble here, and I would be looking for that cross to happen alongside this next sort of bouncy bounce occurring, and then, well, if you see that cross happen and Bitcoin's testing, especially like somewhere around the 377 or the 21 exponential moving average, kind of creating a range between low 9,000 and like 9150-ish region, probably be looking for another return to these lows that we're currently on right now. Not a death sense in and of itself, but I really want to match up both Bitcoin and traditional markets when they typically bottom out, as they probably are likely to move together, or at least within the same vicinity as each other, especially coming into this next weekly and monthly close, and just 1 day actually. 1 day for traditional markets and CMEs. Of course, Bitcoin, another couple days. Anyways, looking at this right here, we do see that momentum oscillators like Stokes are actually pointing back up. But again, I'm not so convinced by this. We see 4 hour, I'm guessing 3 hours going to be there as well. 2 hour and hourly all kind of in the same direction. And I do think that is going to get a very slight amount of a relief rally here. But looking at even the hourly, we do have a little bit of bullish divergence here. What's the highest time frame that we have bullish divergence present on? What about a 2 hour? Yes, we do have a 2 hour. What about a 3 hour? And we have a 3 hour as well. So all the way up to a 3 hour, but not a 4 hour. So not so impressive, but probably good enough for a nice little relief rally here. Like I said, 89.50 to 90-ish 50 is where I'd be looking towards. And then at that point, I'd kind of want to reassess, and any sort of a medium time frame close that fails to get back above 91.50 is no change of behavior as far as the medium and higher time frames go. Just shorter term time frames kind of getting resolved here and having a little bit of a reprieve. Anyways, what else do we want to see? Funnily enough, historical volatility percentile not even getting all that done over here on the 4 hour, which does also imply that we probably have some more to go as it continues to, well, it's actually contracting right now, which is really, really bizarre. Anyways, let's go over to the 12 hour, see how this one's doing. 12-hour Stokes, once again, the harbinger of death and despair. And you can see that we have bottomed out in the same region for the last, what is this, going back to November. Let's see how far this one goes back. Actually, this does seem to be a pretty damn good area, going all the way back to July of 2019. So this is more than 6 months, more than half a year going now. That's called most of the lows within this region. However, you can see that we do still have a little bit of time to go. I'm going to put some alerts in this region as well. So again, kind of showing that more or less Bitcoin perhaps could have another foray to the downside. Now let's talk about this for a second. So I've just talked about bounce targets to the upside and kind of where my opinions would change. To the downside is a little bit different. As any sort of a 4 hour total closure below, essentially below our current low right now. This is unfortunately not going to be too scientific. Perhaps this is going to be better to be done on a 12 hour, just because there's something a little bit more to be going off of. We could either say a 12-hour below the 377 about 86, or a daily below the 200 simple. If we could get both an open and closure today below that region, then yes, I would extend targets all the way down to about 8150. 8150 would be the next area that I look for a major, massive bouncy bounce off of. Again, regardless of whether I'm bearish or bullish, I would be looking for a bounce in that region, probably to the tune of 400, 500, maybe $600 back up to test around the 200 simple right around here. It's also going to be the weekly 55, I believe. Yes, indeed it is. And funnily enough, you do see essentially that Bitcoin and traditional markets kind of getting around those same major moving averages. Again, making the correlation right here between Bitcoin resting on the 21 and 10 simple. Obviously, that's much higher in relation to traditional markets, but the 55 kind of underlaying our bottom side support if this area does indeed break. So as far as the weekly goes, I do want to wait for tomorrow's close on CMEs, because if we do break below the 21 exponential moving average, I do think that we will test that 8150-ish region, and that's going to be the next potential bottoming area. And if that one fails, then move it down just one more back into the same territory that we saw from late 2019 in that mid to low 7,000s region. So still a little bit well and far away, and I do think that it's going to require a little bit of patience here. But keep in mind that with this price action, there are multiple considerations, especially with the higher time frames. Looking at momentum oscillators like weekly Stokes, which have been pretty damn good, really don't want to see them turn down from this area. I'll put it that way, man. I'll put it that way, as that would likely give us some momentum over the next month or two to probably bring things back down to the mid to low 7,000s. By the same token, looking at weekly RSI, if we do close below that exponential movement average right there, I would look for this to base once again in the around the bearish control zone, not necessarily breaking into it or staying into it, like making a deep attempt, but I do think that it would at the very least test it. And this is going to be a complete farce right here, with the blue box territory absolutely getting shattered once again. But that is still pending, as we do need to see the actual weekly close. So tomorrow's weekly close for both traditional markets and CME is going to be pretty damn critical, and you do see that CMEs is more or less showing about the same thing. More importantly, with CMEs, we're going to have a chance to fully and formally confirm a swing failure pattern here. Technically speaking, I'd say that this is already confirmed. The only way that this gets unconfirmed is if Bitcoin gets back above about 9,700 on tomorrow's closure for CME. So that would be about a $900 rally from this current price point. I'd say it's a little bit unlikely, and at the end of the day, it's probably going to imply that we actually do test a little bit lower. Overall. But again, like I said, I do think that at least for the next, probably the next couple days, probably do play out a little bit of bouncy bounce, and then we'll come back and reassess. I'll put it that way. Anyways, okay, what else do we want to talk about? Let's see, how many minutes are we into this already? Okay, let's go over here. And let's kind of underlay the lower term timeframes. We did hit this blue box territory that we've had in for quite some time, the same area that we've been speaking about for, Jesus Christ, a month or so now. Like I said, these targets to the downside, I did not expect to get hit so damn fast. And again, that's why I don't really talk too much about time analysis. The closest thing that you can get to like time analysis is volatility, but that only implies that something's more likely. It doesn't necessarily imply dates and whatnot. When I make inferences on that, that's just my own, just for my own pleasure, I suppose. But as you can see, it's rarely got too much efficacy as far as my own opinion on it. What's more important, of course, is just the volatility telling you that, moves are more likely. Anyways, in this region right here, as we kind of rest on this, as we kind of bounce off this lower blue box territory off the 200 exponential moving average, I do think that this is going to provide a little bit more of a bouncy bounce. But I do want to check out momentum oscillators on daily. We do see daily RSI getting way down there. I don't see any divergences forming anytime soon. I mean, this could have a long ways to go. It also could be that we are forming a trend line all the way back from September 2019. Somewhere in this region right around here. Longer term consideration, that's really the only thing that I see that's a little bit obvious on this chart. Other than that, probably going to test the outside of the bearish control zone, but assuming that gets rejected, we very likely will test that 8150-ish level if that does happen. But again, that's still going to take a few more days to kind of get resolved in itself. Looking at daily Stokes, plenty of room to the downside here in accordance with the 12-hour Stokes, and of course a 12-hour Joule calling the move and saying just a few days ago, hodl your shorts, or for the more aggressive traders, reshort. And usually when you get a signal like this in this region right here, probably going to play out somewhere down in this region right here. So I do think that that's a little bit more on the damning side as well. And unfortunately, any sort of a bounce within this region. Any sort of a bounce that fails to get back above 9150 or 9200, the breakdown that we saw yesterday, is not going to be good, man. Is not going to be good. Anyways, looking at the 12-hour, we do see 200 simple coming in right around about 82.50. So I do think that the next zone of potential bouncy bounce, if we do break down, would be in that 81.50 to 82.50-ish zone. I do apologize if I'm a little bit over the place today. I'm literally recording this video as soon as I wake up, as I do have a few things to take care of, as coronavirus preparation is in full swing right now. Anyways, going down to the lower term timeframes, let's start to kind of bring a few things together. And what do we see here? Okay, so first and foremost, blue box territory right here, 80. Let's just call it like 85.50 to, or let's call it 86. Let's call it 86 to 86.50 is the zone. And as long as we're kind of closing 4-hour deltas above there, I don't really look for that next major move to the downside. And I am comfortable holding a short-term bouncy bounce long, a scalpy long most likely. If we do break this area, of course, 8600, I would look for the next move to push us down to about 81.50, as I said, anywhere between about 81.50 to 8200-ish region. And I look for a big bad bounce over there. Again, we'll come back and reassess that bounce to see if it constitutes a reversal. But for right now, that's essentially what I'm looking towards. For the lower term timeframes, 89.50 is our more preliminary resistance. If we do clear that one, it doesn't do anything for the medium or higher term timeframes. The only thing that'll do something for the medium or higher term timeframes is this guy right here, right around 91.50 to 9200. As long as we're living below there, this is bearish, and this likely does beget some more continuation. So if Bitcoin even were to pop all the way back up and test around this region, again, like I said, it doesn't do all that much. It needs to retake this region in order for me to get short-term, medium-term, and somewhat long-term perhaps bullish once again. And like I said, with the 4-hour death cross impending, not a big fan of that. Anyways, what else do we want to talk about? So yeah, let's match that up with the expected move chart. And you know what? Now is actually a fun time to be using this, because I can get it on the exact chart that I'm using right now. And actually the model has been a little bit updated by the man himself, Mr. Bali. So let's throw it on. I actually am only running the first, second, and third standard deviation. Now there's several more considerations with it. Let's actually put it on a 12-hour with those critical areas in mind. Again, 85.50 to the, 85.50 to the downside. And to the upside, 89.50 more preliminary, and then 90, and then critical area at 91.50 for changing a little bit medium-term bias. Anyways, looking at this right here, what do we see? We do see that the bottom side of the first standard deviation is coming in right around 8,600. Second standard deviation coming in significantly lower at 84.50. So it is a little bit unlikely that we actually do break to the downside today. But I do feel like I've been saying that quite often recently, and those unlikely probabilities have been getting taken out. So fair enough, trade at your own accordance. But top side of the first deviation coming in where? Coming in right around 89.50. So Bitcoin did pop back up to 89.50. I'll certainly be closing a shit ton of my long position, perhaps even all of it. And it does imply that less than a 16% chance that we do close above there in the next 12-hour session. Now, if Bitcoin does close above there, that we do see that the second standard deviation on the 12 hours coming in right around that critical 91.50-ish region. That also does imply that we have less than a 2.5% chance that we actually do close above again in the next 12-hour period. Going on to a daily, I do want to check what this one suggests, and same sort of thing here as well. In fact, the daily I think is going to be a little bit more accurate and a little bit more damping as well. Unfortunately, we do see the bottom side of the first deviation coming in right at our current low right now. So two ways of doing this. Like I said, could take out the low side of our current wick to the downside. Is that going to be as efficacious as waiting for like a 4-hour delta closure below 95.50-ish region? No, but probably gets the job done. They probably happen at the same time regardless. Anyways, my point is that less than a 60% chance from this price point in the next 17 hours worth of trading period. And to the upside, we do see 90.50-ish reason once again. So I do think that Bitcoin probably pops back up and tests around 89.50 to 90-ish 50. It would also imply that we do have a less than 16% chance to take out that level. And remember, that level does absolutely nothing for us. It's a 91.50-ish area that we're looking for. And in fact, we could actually come up with probabilities for that. That should be like the 0.5 region right here. So it's going to be represented by this gray line. And let's see. Actually, yes, pretty much right on target, 91.50. So that would be, if I do a little bit of bad mental math between the first and second standard deviation, so that's 16% versus 2.5%. So market somewhere in the middle. And what do we got? Jesus Christ, 9. I think like a 9 read on that. So less than a 9% chance that we actually do pop back up above the critical region 9150 before day's end, and that is not very good. Not very good. So I don't think that that's what's happening today. Today's kind of like a scalp day as far as my own trading behaviors. By the way, I will be on Twitch later today as well, and I do think that we're going to be having some nice price action to accompany that. Anyways, what else do we want to look at? Let's take this off for now. And I just snorted like a fucking pig. I got some corona pig virus now. Jesus Christ, man, kill me. Anyways, okay, cool. I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm missing something else. I feel like my brain is perhaps not operating at the highest level right now because I'm still waking up a little bit. We are going to see a bearish cross the red 10 simple and the yellow 20 exponential moving average right here. It looks like, again, probably does rally a little bit into it. Anywhere below 9150 is inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. We can rally up all the way there, nothing changes. Above 9150 though, things change, and I would look for a quick move to test back around 9550, 9600. So there are nice ranges here, and there's certainly a lot of opportunity available. But let's go around the other different market leaders and see what's available. Or sorry, do I want to check out that first? I should say that we did hit we did hit that big blue box from yesterday, right? Sorry, I guess it's in it's in my Bitstamp chart. 0.5 fib getting hit right around here, or essentially in the same area. Blue box getting stabbed right on through, and the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average being tested all in the same run. Yeah, I do think that we're going to be in for a little bit of a bouncy bounce. Anyways, okay, let's go check out some of the top altcoins and see how they're doing. Oh, what's this? Mr. Buterol down at that. Oh my God, it absolutely shattered that 220 target. So the 220 target that we had on Buterol, if Bitcoin broke down, got extended by another $10. Holy shit, man. Oh, that is just rude. Again, same thing for Mr. Buterol. Probably in for a little bit of a bouncy bounce here. As long as dailies are closing above about 222.5, I do think that it probably works its way back up and tests somewhere around this blue box, like 230. What is this, like 233, 236 region, and that'll be the next major test if it can actually get back above there. Okay, maybe we have a change of behavior. Probably going to accompany Bitcoin back above, let's call it 9150. But as long as we're below there, pressure is down. And more importantly, when we are coming into the weekly close, well, technically the weekly close, looking at this right here, not all that healthy. And more importantly, on top of that, we do have hidden bearish divergence, as we spoke about yesterday, playing out. I mean, this is a lower high on the weekly, and we have significantly higher high on the RSI, with weekly Stokes actually getting really, really mature over there. I'm not necessarily certain I like that either. Could it be that we're doing something more like this? Could it be, oh, Jesus Christ, hold on, that is way too convoluted. All we need is a few trend lines here. Could it be that we're doing something more like this, and we're probably going to come all the way back down and test around 143? Maybe. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But something like this. And it's put in one massive ascending triangle, or perhaps a rising wedge, depending upon if you're bearish or bullish. But overall, could it be that we have the momentum to bring things back down here over the next month or two? Yeah, this Bitcoin halving is just going to basically have all the price of all these assets, unfortunately. Anyways, looking at this right here, I do think that it is going to test the 21 and 10 simple over time. Question is, does it break it? If it does break it, I would extend that target all the way down here, actually, to 150. So we're getting a little bit bearish, a little bit ahead of ourselves. I want to be very clear in stating this. I do think for now, Bitcoin and company is essentially going to bounce up, test whatever our limit is, and then, assuming that it's another rejection, brace for impact once again. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin, what's Mrs. Litecoin doing? Bouncing off the 200 simple, very similar chart to Bitcoin. I do think that this one probably pops back up along with Bitcoin and tests somewhere around $65.5 to $66, right around here. Same thing as Bitcoin below 9150. As long as we're below that area, no changes of behavior and overall bearish. Not only that, but the daily does actually have a continuation jewel sell signal right here as well. You can see that it's respecting. Perhaps this is going to be better seen on a 12-hour. No, actually not. It doesn't look as good on a 12-hour. But similar thing here. I do think that it pops back up, and if we do get that continuation move to the downside, Bitcoin 8150, I would be looking for Mrs. Litecoin to come back down to like the $53 to $54 region right here, in accordance with the 200 simple on the 12-hour around there. And the daily actually doesn't have anything in that region, but it is somewhat our late January lows. I do want to also check out GBTC, as GBTC has been a pretty damn good harbinger of death and despair, and also peace and prosperity for the people who who you look at it as a leading indicator for downside. And we see the same thing here as well, kind of coming down to that 377 exponential moving average. Did get front ran a little bit, but that would be akin to that 8150-ish region for Bitcoin. That's really the region that I myself would like for perhaps a longer term position. But right now, I do think that this one's kind of set and poised to bounce a little bit anywhere between the 55 and the 200 simple. And as long as it's below the 200 simple, overall, not good. What else do we want to look at while we're here? Perhaps Ripple. I'm curious what Ripple's doing. I'm always curious what Ripple's doing. Yeah, hit it down all the way to that 22 and a quarter cent target. Do you think that it probably, probably pops back up, tests around like 24 and a quarter, but overall, as long as it's below 25 and a quarter, nothing new is going on here. And the golden cross being absolutely a smoke and mirrors right here as it gets averted at the last second, which is typically a sign that we're going to head down probably somewhere around a little bit further, maybe down to like 20 to 21 cents overall. So again, kind of like a short-term bouncy bounce right here, assuming that it doesn't get any sort of daily closures back above 20 a quarter and a half, we'll call it. No change in behavior, unfortunately. What else do we want to look at? Let's look at gold really quick. So gold is acting like an actual hedge right now. If the world truly is fucked from this coronavirus, and looks to me like it's going to pop back up and test around 1670-ish region. However, I'm not so convinced it's ready to rock and roll higher than that just yet. I do think it's going to retest those highs. The question is, does it actually close on new highs? I'd wait for the monthly here. It's only going to be one more day, so might as well. Overall, monthly looks very, very good. So I do think that longer term it's going to get some more tries to the upside with a big focus on the area of about 1750 to 1770-ish region. And in the interim, short term, I actually do think that it rallies back up to just around the prior high. Sorry, not the prior high right here, but like 1670-ish region. And in any sort of a close above there, I'd look for a continuation, over the next coming weeks into March. Looking more or less constructive over a long period of time. This to be fair, this one actually is acting like an actual hedge if people do need it. This doing pretty damn well, to be fair. I mean, this is a very constructive chart long term. And this is, again, coming from someone who does not really care too much about gold or believe too much in like pet rocks. But fair enough. This one's actually, doing some different and doing some impressive. Let's go check out Link as well. Link was doing something incredibly impressive yesterday as well, rallying while everything else was getting absolutely cream pied like a fucking prano. And looking at me like it probably pops up a little bit here. I like how it's regained the 21 exponential moving average, put in a nice bullish engulfing dildo, or close to a bullish engulfing dildo. I think that's going to probably retest the highs right around 45,000 satoshis. We did overshoot our downside target. I was saying 39,000 to 40,000 satoshis for the downside target. It actually overshot that by a few thousand, but close enough is close enough, and I do think that this one's going to reapproach the prior high. Longer term, this one's still actually acting okay, and now that we have this massive wick to the downside on the weekly, can use that as a pivot going forwards, and I would be overall short-term, medium-term, looking for the upside to resume back to the prior high and I'd be using this kind of as like an actionable period right here, which is about 37,000 satoshis to the downside. So it's going to be setting up for a pretty damn good monthly close, I'd imagine. Yes, indeed. And that probably is going to imply that coming into March, we do see some more upside in this one. So again, Link doing something different. I think Tezos was also doing something different, which is very interesting to me. Let's see if it's doing something different versus US dollar, though. That's the real question. Yeah, it is. Oh, it certainly is. Wow, this is very impressive. Yeah, I'd be looking for this one to pop back up and test around $3.15 once again as well. Kind of putting in a potential head and shoulders here, but for now, I do think that it reapproaches the prior high, and then if you see a rejection there, not a death sentence. The death sentence is with the daily total closure anywhere below 2 3/4, 275, or the daily 21, or just taking out this wick to the downside at about $2.50. If one of three of those things happens, I would be looking for a price action to bring it all the way back down to 212, 210 region longer term. But I don't think that that's what's going on here. This one's still kind of being one of the darlings of the crypto market alongside Link. All other majors that I've seen are not looking all that hot, or at least they look in some way kind of variable to Bitcoin. Just kind of like a fractal of it, if you want to say that. This one, of course, this is a great example of something like actually doing different. Like I said, alongside Link. What else do we want to look at? I think most of the other ones look about the same. Let's look at Tron really quick. What's Tron doing? Oh my God. Yeah, this is what I'm afraid Bitcoin will do, is that it actually closes below the weekly 21. And if it looks like Tron probably does do that, and if Tron does do that, I'd be looking for it to come back down to like one spot 4 cent to 1 spot 3 cent down here. Not looking good. In fact, this would be a good time to go check out the total market cap for this market. This actually has been getting things more or less okay recently. Total market cap is showing that we probably do bounce here as well. We do have that nice cross of the red 10 symbol above the yellow 21. So I do think that we get a little bit of lift time here. Or sorry, a little bit of a bounce here. The question is though, any failure to get back above 9150 doesn't really do anything for the long term, unfortunately. So that is a critical area, and I'd be looking for Bitcoin as the most actionable as to kind of base it off of. We even had a little bit of bearish divergence, I think, on the weekly RSI as well here, and that would have been a good thing to pay attention to, as it brought us right down to the 21 perfectly. But yeah, bounce for now. Question is, what happens around that 91 to 9150-ish region? If it's a rejection, I would be looking for at the very least 8150 to get hit, to get tagged over the next month. If that fails, then we actually got some a little bit more problematic to talk about. Anyways, let's see. Okay, what else do we want to talk about here? Let's look at Dixie. Let's look at the dollar index. Is there anything going on here that's interesting? Dollar index also kind of acting as a little bit more of a hedge than other assets, funnily enough, for all the people out there who don't believe. Dollar index, well, did come down quite a bit, but overall looking like one of the more stronger currencies, stronger fiat currencies, I should say. Let's see. Actually, I'm not sure what to make of this, to be quite honest with you. It is testing resistance right now. Do we get actual continuation? Let's go to a monthly. I don't think that we're getting too much from the weekly, or at least I'm not. Let's go to a monthly for a second. Monthly is looking good. I do think that this thing will continue onwards, going into March. What's the month after that? March, April, May. Looking pretty damn good. Weekly, maybe a little bit of a pullback here, but as long as we're remaining above about 98 and a quarter, I'm more or less bullish on this long term. Short term can ebb and flow. I don't have a strong opinion on that. Okay, I think that's about it. Probably talked your head off already by now, and I think that would be now's a good time to wrap up Bitcoin and send this off. So, while we are here on the monthly, why not check out Bitcoin on the monthly? And I will say this, especially with the monthly close coming in 2 days. Let me just make sure. I believe it is 2 days. Yes, it is. It is 2 days. If the monthly closes above the 10 simple, I'd say that bulls are still have hope here, and I'd be more or less long term, not really too concerned with price action. I'd still look at this as like more or less a corrective move, although it is quite a nasty move. But that's the way that Bitcoin plays, and that's why we love Bitcoin. But keep your eyes on this, because it is right around 89.50-ish region. So anywhere between 89.50 and 90.50 again is the area. Is the area that I would be looking for to probably be retested on the lower term timeframes. However, it doesn't really do anything for the medium and higher term timeframes. 91.50 is a big area, and if the monthly closes below this region, that would be a little bit more of an obvious thing, saying that we probably do come back down to the 21 on the monthly over the next couple months to 7,500. Again, when I give timing for something like that, it doesn't mean all that much, right? But if I had to guess, it'd be something like that. Anyways, there's one other thing that I want to do. Yeah, let's go check out the 2-day. See how the 2 day is doing right here. 2 day not really gonna us too much, unfortunately. Well, nothing. I mean, it is giving us quite a bit, but it's not telling us anything that we haven't already seen. The big thing that stands out to me about the 2 day though is the historical volatility percentile read that we saw days ago, or sorry, not days ago, but like that we've been referencing for the last week and a half. This is playing out. I mean, remember, we spoke about a 20% move at the very least, historically speaking, whenever we get to this read on historical volatility percentile. Sometimes that TA bullshit, that TA hocus pocus actually works out. We're at a 19.5% move from top to bottom thus far. So fair enough. Once again, playing out, and for better or worse, unfortunately wanted to see that expansion come to the upside. Well, going to be wrong on that one, and we get to do the downside. So this is why I do talk about multiple scenarios, or more or less a bearish and bullish scenario, because at the end of the day, technical analysis is only coming up with statistical narratives that drive these moves. And as you can see, the final analysis more or less accurate, but that triggering point is always going to be the most important thing. So we obviously hit the bearish triggering point before the bullish one with that that move below about 95.50, and results are in not so good. Anyways, okay, I think it's time to wrap this bitch up. Let's go back down to a lower term time frame, like a 4 hour here. Go back onto Bit Mexico as well. And what we can see right here, I do think that Bitcoin's more or less getting ready for a bounce. Probably test at the very least like 89.50-ish region, at which point I'm happy to get out of positions. We do have a 4 hour death cross impending probably in the next day, 2 days at most, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't rally back above about 9,400. Could happen. We've seen crazier things happen, although I think quite unlikely. I do think that Bitcoin's going to have a relief rally here and probably find a local high in this region. And if we get the death cross, if we get, I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but if Bitcoin does get a death cross, as it approaches this region right here, so it's not going to look all that hot, but fair enough. I'm still gonna, I'll still be doing these videos every day, watching this one as it goes through, and of course the lower term timeframes, more or less, more or less telling us the same thing as the higher term timeframes. Critical points to the downside, let's call it like 85.50 to 8600-ish region. Critical points to the upside for the shorter term timeframes is going to be 89.50. Remember, that doesn't do anything for the medium or higher term timeframes. Those change around here at about 91.50 and more obviously at about 9200. But you can kind of almost imagine that if Bitcoin does get a rally up here, that death cross will be coming somewhere around this timeline, even if we did rally up here. So that would be late tomorrow on Friday for myself in Helsinki, Finland. So that would be around the daily close for New York Stock Exchange for everyone over there in the Western Hemisphere of this world. So yeah, I think to kind of wrap up my thoughts there, if Bitcoin does break to the downside, the next area that I'll be looking towards about 81.50-ish region, give or take about $50, and I do believe Bitcoin would have a pretty strong reaction in that region. By the same token, we can go level by level here, which I do think is the best way to be doing this price action. Is a little bit finicky, but 89.50, if that area gets taken out, I do think that Bitcoin would test in this region. But that's a big bad one. If Bitcoin can get back above, close some 4 hour dildos above 9200, or close a 12 hour above 9150, that would start to look pretty nice. And I'd look for a continuation back up to about 9550, 9600 relatively fast after that. And then we'll come back and reassess. But I do think that's a little bit less likely right now. Anyways, for the time being, I am looking for this bounce to play out. I'll be signing off now. I want to wish you well once again and apologize for my brain booting up in the early morning hours, but I did want to get this video out while these things are still more or less actionable. Of course, this is never financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I am happy to share exactly what I'm doing in this market, and I'll be on Twitch later. So if you want to join on in, the links is in the description down below. Take care, and until next time.